a recap of stories that made headlines during the week. I'm Teniola Shoboale. The headlines. Finally, the President signs the reworked version of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill into law. Governors of the All Progressives Congress, APC, meet with President Buhari, back the party's new convention date of March the 26th. National Assembly receives constitutional amendment report from the Senate and House committees as First Lady makes special appearance at plenary sessions. Plus, Russia launches full-scale invasion of Ukraine as forces attack from north, east and south. That's News Round in view. We begin News Round with the President finally signing the Electoral Amendment Bill into law. This is coming 25 days after the bill was transmitted to him by the National Assembly. President Muhammadu Buhari assented to the bill at the Council chamber, where he noted that the reworked bill contains provisions that could positively revolutionize elections in Nigeria through new technological innovations.
At about midday, President Muhammadu Buhari arrives the council chamber after a two-day official trip to Nasarawa State to append his signature on the reworked Electoral Act Amendment Bill, which is the first in 12 years after the 2010 Electoral Act. The President of the Senate, Mr. Ahmed Lawan, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, Chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum, Governor Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State, the Chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, Mr. Yabagi Sani, as well as other members of Cabinet were in attendance.
Chairman, Independent National Electoral Commission.
The President acknowledges an improved version of the bill, which he has held for the past 25 days since it was transmitted on January 31, 2022. However, he has some areas of concern.
The section provides as follows. No political appointee at any level shall be voting delegate or be voted for at the convention or congress of any political party for the purpose of the nomination of candidates for any election. This provision has introduced qualification and disqualification criteria that alter various the Constitution by way of importing blanket restriction and disqualification to serving political office holders, of which they are constitutionally accorded protection.
That provision is a major objection raised by the President, which he believes infringes on the rights of political office holders. He wants the National Assembly to amend the section.
Arising from the foregoing, with particular regards to the benefits of the bill, industry, time, resources, and energy committed in its passage, I hereby assent to the bill and request the National Assembly to consider immediate amendments that will bring the bill in tune with constitutionality by way of deleting section 84, subsection 12 accordingly.
Appearing visibly elated, the President, flanked by the leadership of the National Assembly, finally appends his signature to the reworked 2021 Electoral Act Amendment Bill. Moments after the brief ceremony, the President of the Senate, as well as the Speaker of the House of Representatives, apparently went into a private meeting with the President in his office. The leadership of the National Assembly, in a chat with State House correspondents, assures that the legislature will consider the president's request for amendment.
I hope that they will send the request for the amendment in good time, because time is of essence. INEC is waiting, and because we don't want to spill over some of these dates unnecessarily, we will be expecting a communication from Mr. President with respect to this, and then the National Assembly in both chambers will look into the request for amendment.
Other participants at the brief ceremony expressed binary views of hope and possible pitfalls if enforcement is lacking.
I believe that the laws are there, but what is lacking is the enforcement of those laws. At the point of voting, we still have to come up with ways by which we can address the issue of use of money, obscene use of money, to influence voters. Otherwise, to be garbage in, garbage out.
Now that the reworked 2021 Electoral Act Amendment Bill has been signed, expectations have obviously soared, and a more reliable election conduct in the country is imminent. But apparently, this law is not an end to all electoral challenges in the country. It is hoped that at least the law will address issues of manipulation and provide a level playing field for all political parties in the country. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
The National Convention of the All Progressives Congress will now take place on March the 26th, 2022. This comes as the Progressive Governors Forum declared that it stands united and has embraced the new convention date as released by the party. The chairman of the Progressives Governors Forum, who led members of the forum to the State House, stated this after their meeting with the president.
Less than 24 hours after the ruling All Progressives Congress announced the new date for the National Convention, President Muhammadu Buhari chairs a meeting with the Progressives Governors Forum at the Council Chamber. He is joined by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. In the midst of what many have described as a division within the APC ahead of the March 26 National Convention, the meeting seeks to align perspectives, advance an equitable front, and correct grey areas.
Our governors divided? Not at all. The 22 governors of the APC are united. We are in total support of Mr. President. We are appreciative of his leadership. We commend him for his leadership. We are appreciative of the sacrifice of the National Caretaker and Extraordinary Convention Planning Committee, and we thank them for the successes recorded under them. Our party, like I said, is greater and stronger with more members by the day.
The governors also elected to consider the president's stance on a consensus candidate for the party's chairmanship.
It reminded us of that we have produced a number of national chairmen by consensus. Baba Kande emerged as the pioneer chairman of the party by consensus. His Excellency John Oyegun emerged by consensus. His Excellency Adams Oshimole emerged by consensus. So he is a believer in consensus as one of the options of producing leadership, and he urged us to explore consensus so that we can generate list, not while recognizing that many people who have indicated interest are equally competent, but knowing that just one person will occupy the office. Consensus is part of our constitution, and he urged us to work towards consensus.
He also lays to rest views that some members want a further shift in the March 26 date for the National Convention.
Today, the governors informed Mr. President that we have had the briefing from the Caretaker Committee and we are supportive of their position.
The body language of the governors cannot be described or interpreted in any other way other than unanimous. As a matter of fact, the Plateau State Governor Samuel Lalong insists that the governors are not papering over the cracks, but there is indeed an enduring sense of stability within the party. even after the president leaves office. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the Constitution Amendment Committees in both the Senate and House of Representatives have laid their reports in their chambers ahead of the vote on the review next week. However, the wife of the president, Mrs. Aisha Buhari, accompanied by some female ministers, made a rare appearance at the plenary sessions. Mrs. Buhari was first at the Senate to throw her weight behind an item for amendment in the 1999 Constitution, which seeks specific seats to be created for female legislators, before she was later admitted into the House chamber.
The wife of the president, Mrs. Aisha Buhari, and her entourage walking into the Senate chamber. Lawmakers suspend their rules to admit her into the chamber. This is the first time a spouse of a serving president is attending plenary in the National Assembly since the return to democracy in 1999. Mrs. Buhari is here to support gender bills put forward for constitution amendment.
This is a report on the constitution review, and the presence of the First Lady is especially to show her support for one of the bills that want to create an affirmative action for more female parliamentarians in both chambers, in the Senate and the House and the state legislatures.
Deputy Senate President Ovie Omoagege, who chairs the Special Ad Hoc Committee on the review of the 1999 Constitution, lays the Constitution Amendment reports. There are 68 items for amendment in the 1999 Constitution. They include amendment for financial autonomy for local governments, financial independence of state houses of assembly and state judiciary, amendment for the procedure for passing a constitution alteration bill where the president withholds assent, strengthening the judiciary for timely dispensation of justice. From the Senate, Mrs. Buhari heads to the House of Representatives.
The First Lady is here.
The Speaker of the House of Representatives notes the 3 provisions which will affect women directly, promising support, but insists that it will not be easy.
Every man here is a he for she, but there's still a lot of work to be done yet. We're still in the process, and there's still a lot of lobbying to be done on both houses.
As she leaves Parliament, Mrs. Buhari speaks on her mission to the National Assembly.
We are here this afternoon to peacefully observe the proceedings on constitutional review about women, and also to listen to the proceedings also concerning the 35 affirmative action about women and special additional seats for women in the National Assembly.
Female lawmakers stress the importance of passing constitution amendment bills for gender parity.
We'll give it our best shot to make sure that women in Nigeria have a say, because it starts from lawmaking. If we are making laws, okay, look at constitutional amendment. We are going to vote by simple majority. How many women are there?
Federal lawmakers in the Senate and House of Representatives are expected to commence voting on the constitution bills from March 1st, 2022. Thereafter, the bills eventually passed will be sent to the state houses of assembly also for voting. Linda Akibe, Channels Television News.
The House of Representatives Committee on Petroleum Downstream has commenced interactions with the 4 companies named by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company (NNPC) over the recent importation of bad petrol into the country. However, the companies have maintained that they are not responsible for the bad fuel and challenged the NNPC to present the result of the test which it conducted on the product. Meanwhile, the House Committee on Customs is giving the CBN governor an ultimatum to appear before it over the e-invoicing policy on imports and exports.
After meeting with the CEO of the NNPC last week, the House Committee on Petroleum Downstream, which is investigating the importation of the off-spec premium motor spirit, meets with the consortiums mentioned by the NNPC as being responsible. MRS Oil and Gas Limited clearly states that it is not involved in the unfortunate incident.
Let me state that there is an approved specification of PMS, which is imported into Nigeria. That specification is the product which we brought, and I think the GMD of NNPC also attested to the fact that the product which we brought on board the Empty Bowl Pioneer was tested at load port, and it met Nigerian specification.
If you are given a contract with a particular specifications and you decided not to bring up to that standard, then we have every right to charge them. But based on the letter of the contract and the specification given to them, if they comply, they don't have anything.
Emadeb Energy Limited, the lead partner for the 4 consortiums named by the NNPC, explains that the company was not responsible for the importation and points at Britannia U, which also denies the claim, explaining that the supplier gave samples which were approved by the NNPC.
Some of the consortium members, Emadeb, McKiffey, immediately engaged reputable international partners for delivery of the gasoline products and prompt loading of crude. But one of our sister company, which is the 4th member, Britannia, you choose to engage a different entity and decide to go on our own.
Said that we brought in an off-spec. Did anybody, because before you said that we brought in, you will test. There will be a joint test. Was there any joint test between us, NNPC, or whoever? There was none. They did an independent inspection, which legally, under the Nigerian law, is DPR that is supposed to do the testing. Now, you have done the test. What is the test result? We don't have the test result as we speak today.
According to her, imported fuel is not normally tested for methanol. In the meantime, the House Committee on Customs is furious with the CBN governor for failing to honor its invitation, and an initial ruling for a warrant of arrest is rescinded, giving the CBN governor another opportunity to appear before the committee. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
And on the international scene, Russia has launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, destroying the country's infrastructure and killing scores of people. On Thursday, citizens reported explosions on several targets overnight and woke up to the aftermath.
Explosions rang out in the capital Kyiv and other cities as Russia invaded Ukraine. They came after Russia's President Vladimir Putin ordered a military operation into Ukraine's east. Russian forces fired missiles at several cities and landed troops on Ukraine's southern coast. Several Ukrainian civilians were reportedly killed. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky declared martial law. He also called on citizens to fight, saying weapons will be issued to everyone who wants them. Ukraine's allies have been quick to condemn Russia's actions and avowed hard-hitting sanctions.
Today, in concert with our allies, we will agree a massive package of economic sanctions designed in time to hobble the Russian economy. And to that end, we must also collectively cease the dependence on Russian oil and gas that for too long has given Putin his grip on Western politics.
These sanctions are designed to take a heavy toll on the Kremlin's interests and their ability to finance war. And we know that millions of Russians do not want war. President Putin is trying to turn the clock back to the times of the Russian Empire. But in doing so, he is putting at risk the future of the Russian people. I call on Russia to immediately stop the violence and to withdraw its troops from Ukraine's territory. We will not let President Putin tear down the security architecture that has given Europe peace and stability over many decades. We will not allow President Putin to replace the rule of law by the rule of force and ruthlessness.
French President Emmanuel Macron says his country will respond without weakness to Russia's act of war against Ukraine, saying Russia should expect tough sanctions that would hit its military, its economy, and its energy sector. NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg says Russia has launched a cold-blooded, long-planned invasion.
This is a grave moment for the security of Europe. Russia's unjustified and unprovoked attack on Ukraine is putting countless innocent lives at risk. With air and missile attacks, ground forces and special forces from multiple directions, targeting military infrastructure and major urban centers. This is a deliberate, cold-blooded and long-planned invasion. Despite its litany of lies, denials and disinformation, the Kremlin's intentions are clear for the world to see. Russia's leaders bear full responsibility for their reckless actions and the lives lost.
Ukrainian state air traffic services has closed the country's airspace. Traffic jams have formed in the capital, Kyiv, as residents try to leave the city. Residents have also sought shelter in stations and queues forming for buses, cash points and petrol.
And finally on News Round, and still in Ukraine, which is a popular destination for Nigerian students, especially for those in medicine-related fields. According to data from the Ukrainian government, an estimated 4,000 Nigerians were studying in tertiary institutions across the country in 2020. Amid the Russian invasion of the country, many of these Nigerian students are left stranded with no concrete plans for evacuation.
Cities under siege across Ukraine are home to thousands of Nigerian students studying at universities across the country. But what was meant to be an alternative to studying compared to Western Europe or the United States has turned into a war zone overnight.
Where I am right now, there is no way I can order a taxi, and there is no bus. There's no movement at all. So I and my friends have been trying to see to make way, but it's impossible. We've not been able to leave where we are right now. So we've been here since yesterday. But I was asked by the house manager to switch off the lights because we are hearing that the Russian troops are already here. So we don't want to draw any attention right now.
With flights grounded and no evacuation plan in place, many students make their way to the Polish border, but some say they've been unable to cross over.
I was at the Ravarushka border today, and when we got there, we were told we needed a bus to enter. On arrival of the bus, when it was time to board, the males were not allowed. So it was just the females, and we didn't know why, and they didn't give us an explanation. It was only the females. When we got to the second checkpoint, they told us we couldn't enter because we don't have an EU visa.
On Thursday, the Nigerian embassy in Ukraine called for calm and vigilance, urging Nigerian citizens to be proactive with their personal safety. With families and loved ones thousands of miles away, these Nigerian students are calling on the Nigerian government for help.
We try to call our embassy over and over again. Nobody's speaking. They're not responding to our emails, to our text messages. They are not responding at all.
Left stranded. The message we got will be like, just be calm,
just be calm.
And there are people who have moved to Poland, they are not allowing them to move in.
Exactly.
They're sending them back at the border.
So we would like the Nigerian embassy to please give us the right information and give us the right steps, because it's unfair to just walk 13 kilometers for nothing. We really walked today and it was very tiring. We would like them to also make contact with the guards at the border to tell them to let us in.
As they wait for help,
Russian forces advance into Ukraine. And that's News Round this week. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Teniola Shoboale. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.